In a world where technology and politics intertwine more than ever, the recent developments surrounding Apple's strategic maneuvers and international trade dynamics offer a compelling glimpse into the complex web of modern globalization. The tech giant Apple, famed for its innovation and sleek design, is now at the forefront of a significant shift in global trade patterns. Following the imposition of hefty tariffs by the United States on electronic products from China, Apple made a bold move to airlift 600 tons of iPhones from India to the U.S., a logistical feat that underscores its commitment to maintaining its market position while navigating the choppy waters of international trade. This audacious undertaking, involving the transport of approximately 1.5 million iPhones, is not merely a reactionary measure to avoid tariffs, but a calculated pivot towards restructuring its global supply chain. Apple's decision to diversify its manufacturing base highlights the increasing importance of India as a burgeoning market with competitive labor costs and favorable trade relations with the U.S. The strategic shift is emblematic of a broader trend among multinational corporations seeking to mitigate geopolitical risks and reduce dependency on a single country for manufacturing. As of April 2025, the U.S. government has enacted tariffs of up to 125% on Chinese-made electronics, a staggering increase from the previous 54% rate. This policy change renders Chinese products less viable in the U.S. market, forcing companies like Apple to reconsider their manufacturing strategies. The potential impact on the prices of Apple products is significant, with projections suggesting that the price of the iPhone 16 Pro Max could soar from $1,199 to as much as $2,300 if production remains in China. Even with the shift to India, consumers may not see stable pricing due to the costs associated with establishing new supply lines and overcoming early production inefficiencies. For U.S. consumers accustomed to Apple's consistent pricing, this development translates into a tangible increase in costs, a direct consequence of the ongoing tariff war. Apple's strategic pivot is not an isolated incident, but signals a potential domino effect across the tech industry. Should other giants follow suit, this could precipitate a broader exodus from China, impacting jobs and supply chains across the globe, including within the United States. The tariff policy, intended to bolster domestic manufacturing, may inadvertently drive companies to seek lower production costs elsewhere, leaving U.S. consumers to bear the brunt of higher prices at the checkout. The economic repercussions of this policy are already manifesting in the stock market, with the Dow Jones experiencing a dramatic drop of over 1,700 points in just 48 hours. Major corporations like Apple, Qualcomm, and Tesla are grappling with the economic shockwaves as international trade becomes increasingly fraught with complexity. China's retaliatory tariffs of 34% on U.S. goods, encompassing agricultural products such as soybeans and corn, further exacerbate the situation, posing a severe challenge to the U.S. agriculture sector. The U.S. International Trade Commission warns that these new tariffs could lead to a 0.5% drop in U.S. GDP and directly affect 500,000 export-dependent jobs, amplifying the economic strain on American consumers and industries reliant on global trade. Historically, trade between the European Union and the United States has driven growth and prosperity, creating millions of jobs and offering consumers access to a diverse array of products at reduced prices. However, the current trajectory of protectionist policies threatens to unravel these benefits, prompting the EU to prepare for a showdown with the U.S. The EU's potential countermeasures, including tariffs on U.S. tech and agricultural products, underscore the escalating tensions in international trade relations. The effectiveness of tariffs as a tool for economic leverage remains contentious, as the long-term implications may include higher prices for American consumers and increased difficulty for U.S. exporters facing retaliatory measures. The current trade climate is marked by uncertainty, with significant implications for investors, businesses, and consumers alike as they navigate the evolving landscape of global trade policies. In the digital age, the power dynamics between the U.S. and the EU are shifting, with the EU leveraging legislative measures to exert influence over American tech giants. The EU's focus on digital taxes, data protection laws, and sector-specific regulations highlights a strategic approach to curbing the dominance of U.S. companies like Meta, Google, and Apple. These measures, aimed at ensuring data sovereignty and fair taxation, reflect a broader effort by the EU to assert its regulatory authority in the digital realm. The Canadian response to U.S. trade policies further illustrates the international ripple effects of protectionist measures. With over 90% of Canadians advocating for a decoupling of trade from the U.S., Canada is actively diversifying its economic partnerships. The expansion of the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, with the EU and increased engagement with Southeast Asian markets signal Canada's intent to reduce its reliance on the U.S. market. Canadian provinces are taking decisive actions to sever ties with U.S. imports, implementing measures such as banning U.S. agricultural products and freezing contracts with U.S. contractors. These moves, coupled with a focus on local products and infrastructure, underscore Canada's strategic pivot away from economic dependence on the United States. The imposition of tariffs on German cars by the U.S. has drawn sharp criticism from Germany and the EU, highlighting the potential for a broader trade conflict. The 25% tariff on German car imports could significantly impact U.S. consumers, increasing vehicle prices by $5,000 to $7,000 each. In response, Germany and the EU are considering retaliatory tariffs on key U.S. products, signaling the potential for an escalating trade war with far-reaching implications. The global backlash against U.S. tariff policies extends to key allies like Canada, Japan, and South Korea, all of whom face challenges in their automotive and technology sectors. The potential isolation of the U.S. on the international stage underscores the need for a reassessment of trade strategies that prioritize cooperation and mutual benefit over protectionism. The political ramifications of these trade policies are also becoming apparent within the U.S., with key states like Florida and Wisconsin expressing skepticism about the effectiveness of the current administration's approach. The shifting political landscape may prompt a reevaluation of strategies to maintain voter support and address the concerns of traditional constituencies. As Europe mobilizes significant resources for defense expenditures, the transatlantic relationship is undergoing a transformation. The EU's €800 billion program for Readiness 2030 reflects a growing commitment to developing an independent defense capability, reducing reliance on U.S. military support. Concerns over the potential vulnerabilities associated with U.S. weapon systems, such as the possibility of remote deactivation, have prompted European nations to explore alternative defense partnerships. Canada's defense strategy is also evolving, with a marked shift towards cooperation with non-U.S. partners. The Canadian government's decision to invest in French and Australian defense technologies, including nuclear submarines and advanced radar systems, reflects a strategic realignment aimed at ensuring national security without reliance on the United States. The strain in U.S.-Canada relations is further compounded by trade tensions, with Canada's imposition of tolls on U.S. trucks transiting to Alaska serving as a retaliatory measure against U.S. tariffs. The economic and strategic implications of this action highlight the complex interplay between national interests and international alliances. As these developments unfold, the question remains, how will these geopolitical shifts and trade policies shape the future of international relations? We invite you, our viewers, to share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. What do you think will be the long-term impact of these trade tensions on global economics and politics? If you found this analysis insightful, consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth coverage of the latest news and trends. Your engagement through likes, comments, and shares helps us bring more content that matters to you. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next video exploring the nuances of global trade and diplomacy.